This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, I'm Curry Gill, and this is a tutorial for using the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department Grants Online application system. This particular tutorial will cover the financial section, so submitting the budget form in the application itself. I have already logged into the system and have opened an application. If you want to learn more about how to do that and even get an account, you can go to OregonHeritage.org and click on grants, and there are several tutorials available there. So I'm in my application. In order to do anything in your application, to enter any information, you do need to click edit in the upper right corner. And then as you do work, you can save things and you can cancel, which I never do. And once all of the required information is completed in the application, the submit application button will be available to you. You will know things are completed, the required things are completed by seeing the circle with the check as opposed to the exclamation point. So the exclamation point means there's more work to be done, and part of that work is under financial information. So this is where you enter the budget information. And you may need to do some scrolling up and down, and depending on your screen resolution, you may not see all of this information. These fields are required, but you can't enter information into them. These are auto-filled by the online system by adding items to the project budget worksheet. So in order to see what you have in your worksheet, you can click on this. And right now we don't have anything in there, but as we enter items, it will begin to fill out, and it will fill out under project budget worksheet the cost items, so the expenses you have for your overall project. And then on the source of funding worksheet portion is where your matching sources will appear. The best way to go about this is first to create a budget and have that ready to go. And your budget should include expenses, total expenses, and income. Those things are the things that we're going to need for our online system. And we also need to have you enter them under specific grant categories that are in the grant guidelines and in the instructions. So this is just a sample project. I'm doing work on a building, and that work includes paint and roofing. And happily, I have some volunteers that are going to tear off the roof for me, so I don't have to pay a contractor for that, but I am hiring a contractor to put it back on. I will have dump fees. I will hire a painter. I will need to purchase tools for my volunteers doing the demolition. And I will need to count my volunteer time as a cost. So it's as if you didn't have your volunteers, you'd be paying someone to do that work. It might fall under the roofing contractor or somebody else. So often people forget to include this as part of the cost, which really causes problems with your budget. And then I have staff time because I have staff managing all this, and they're also going to work with the volunteers on the demolition. And these are the rates that I have here. Depending on your grant program, you'll need to look up what is allowable for the volunteer rate. For Oregon Heritage grants, the volunteer rate is Oregon minimum wage unless they're doing their profession. So if you have a painter painting, then theirs could be an in-kind, and you would need to document from them what they would charge for that work. So those are my expenses. The way I plan to pay for all of these expenses of $20,500 is by getting an in-kind donation. So the dump fee is being waived. I have my volunteer time of $2,000. My staff time is going to be partially in kind, but I want to cover part of it with grant dollars. And I have a matching grant. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the entry. So I have a matching grant. And so I intend to ask OPRD for $12,000 to complete this project, which puts me to my $20,500. So this is my matching source for the grant to cover all the costs that we have up here. Now, as I mentioned before, we require that you bulk these into smaller categories and just group them into categories. This actually makes your life easier because it gives you less that you're required to submit through the online form. So I added my consultants together, which are my roofing contractor and my painter, right? So that's 15,500. My materials were the roof demolition tools, so materials and equipment. I don't have any publication, printing, design. My volunteer time is 2,000. My staff time is 2,000. I don't have any travel, and my other is the dump fee, because I didn't know really what to put that under these other categories. Now, if your contractor, say I have this roofer, right, is doing all the work, they're buying the materials, my roofer, she's coming with all of her equipment she needs, and the cost of her work includes the plywood and the sheeting and the actual roofing material, you just do that total rate. So you don't have to count, if they have broken out in their contract travel time, staff time, and materials, you do not need to put that in this way. That is a contractor cost. All right, so with this budget as our example, we're gonna go back to this system and we are gonna start adding items. And the best way to do that is to add the expenses first. So click Add Worksheet Item. And I had contractor. And my total cost for that was 15,500. And I'm going to add this item. And now it appears under here as a cost, and you have it up here as part of the total project cost. And because we haven't put match in, we're requesting that full amount. So then we're going to continue. We're going to add a worksheet item for the next thing, which was materials and equipment for $500. And now it's adding up and our total is increasing. So our project total is this. And again, we aren't showing match yet, so we're still asking for the full amount. And the next one is volunteer time and then staff time, and those are at 2,000 each. So I'm going to do other first, which was that dump fee. And that was for $500. Whoops, 500. Add item. Okay, now if I wanted to edit this, say I had a 50, I accidentally did 50 instead of 500, I could click that, change it here and click update item. Or I could delete it entirely. Now, you might have noticed when I click add worksheet item, there's this box here. There are only two categories that you should ever check this box for. One is volunteer time. And we said $2,000. And the match amount is $2,000. And this is redundant, but you could say here that you could specify what they're doing and that the source of funding is volunteer labor. And this is not a grant, so then you click add item. And so then you have the cost of the roof removal. It's volunteer time shows up in the cost, the expenses, and then it shows up in match because we're not paying you for their time. And so now you're getting a match amount. I will note that this system does require a match. So if you are applying for a grant that doesn't require a match, you need to at least enter like $1 of organizational funds or something like that. So add worksheet item. And that automatically saved. So I'm going to click edit again. Sometimes it will time out and do that to you. So saving frequently is good. So then we have staff time. And, you know, put the rate in, a good idea. And this is $2,000. And of that, $1,000 of that is going to be match. And that's paid for by organizational funds. And then you add that item. Okay, so now we're going on $3,000 of matching funds. We have a total project cost of $20,500. So if we go back, we can see, yep, our total project cost is $20,500. And now I need to enter in my matching grant, which will then hopefully give us a $12,000 ask. So now we're going to add the worksheet item, and we're going to say grant. And if you've noticed, it says if item is all match, the amount is 0. So the reason why the amount here is 0 is because this is a cost, right? And a grant is not a cost. So the match amount that we have is a $5,000 grant. And the source of funding, again, is a grant. And then you check this box. Now, I might say Oregon Cultural Trust. And if they have specific grant categories, then you can give more detail, but more detail is not required. Just this level is okay. So then I want to know if it's already approved or if it's pending. We're going to say this one's approved. Pending means you might apply, like you intend to apply for it, or you applied for it and you don't know yet. And so then we're going to add this item. And what this will do is subtract that $5,000 from the total cost. So now we have a total project cost of $20,500. We have a total match of $8,000. So that's our volunteer time, part of our staff time, and that grant we got. And then grant funds requested. So it's subtracting our match from our total project cost to get this request. And you will see that that has all been entered in here. And I'm going to click save so none of that goes away. And then we are all set. And this has a green circle with a check. And you're ready to move on to attachments to document all of this. Thanks for your time listening. Again, if you want to see the other tutorials for this program, please visit OregonHeritage.org and click on grants, and all of the tutorials we have available are there. Good luck.